Today, it's nearly impossible to imagine commercial aviation without Airbus, but it wasn't always this way. Before the A320, A350, and before the super jumbo A380, there was an experiment. A risky multinational bet that nearly fell apart before it could even fly. It was called the A300, and it almost ended Airbus before the company had even truly begun. But somehow this aircraft not only survived, it reshaped modern air travel. This is the story of how Europe changed aviation forever. Welcome to EMAviation and the incredible story of the Airbus A300 and the beginning of Airbus itself. A crisis in European aviation. Europe had always produced world-class aircraft. The de Havilland Comet, the first jet airliner, the Caravelle, pioneering rear-mounted engines. But by the 1960s, the industry was in trouble. Engineering wasn't the issue. Economics was. Building advanced airliners had become too expensive, and with a fragmented market, European manufacturers were forced to compete against each other. And all of them lost to American giants like Boeing and Douglas. The US dominated both military and commercial production. Their aircraft were cheaper, produced in higher numbers, and supported by a massive domestic market. Europe realized that if nothing changed, its airliners would become museum pieces. The wide-body revolution begins. The 1960s brought explosive passenger growth and overwhelmed infrastructure. Airlines needed new aircraft, faster or larger. While the world chased speed through Concorde, the Tu-144, and the Boeing 2707, another revolution was brewing, and that was the size. Massive new turbofan engines like the JT9D made large aircraft possible. Enter the wide-body era, with Boeing's 747, McDonnell Douglas's DC-10, and Lockheed's L-1011. Europe didn't want to miss this shift, but their solution would be unique. A European idea with European conditions. European routes were mostly short-haul, so they didn't need aircraft as large as the 747 or as long-range as the DC-10. A 200 to 250-seat twin-engine wide-body could fit the need and avoid going head-to-head with American products. Concepts appeared across Europe. Strange exotic designs like the Nord N600 or Breguet BR1, more conventional ones like the Sud Aviation Galeon or Hawker Siddeley HS134, but none could move forward alone. Inspired by the Concorde's success in multinational cooperation, European governments pushed for a new alliance. Britain, France, and Germany joined forces, building the Impossible Team. It was 1964. Cooperation between Britain, France, and Germany was still unthinkable to many, but each side had motivation. France wanted influence. Germany wanted to rejoin global aviation. Britain thought it didn't need help, but political pressure won. Companies began forming working groups. Deutsche Airbus in Germany, joint ventures in France and Britain. Two main design studies emerged, the HBN 100 and the Galeon. But soon, even the basic decisions triggered debate. How many passengers, which engine, what language? In the end, a compromise. 300 seats, English as the working language, and imperial measurements. And the name, Airbus A300. In 1967, Hawker Siddeley and Deutsche Airbus signed the first deal. Dutch company Fokker joined as a subcontractor, but then things started falling apart. Collapse averted. The A300 design was too heavy for the planned Rolls-Royce RB207 engines. Rolls-Royce shifted its focus to the RB211, meant for Lockheed and Boeing. France turned its attention to the Dassault Mercure, and airlines weren't convinced by the A300's range. To keep the project alive, seating was reduced from 300 to 250. The team also dropped British engines in favor of American ones, the GE ECF6 or Pratt and Whitney JT9D. That was too much for the UK, and they withdrew. It looked like the end. But France and Germany kept going, and Hawker Siddeley agreed to stay on and build the wing. And so, on December 18, 1970, Airbus Industrie GIE was born. A year later, Spain joined. A new way to build airplanes. Airbus wasn't a company, it was a consortium. Each partner built major sections of the aircraft, and they were transported across Europe for final assembly in Toulouse. These weren't just parts, they were nearly finished aircraft modules, and timing was everything. Deliveries had to be just in time, an approach later adopted by modern lean manufacturing. Final assembly took only 4 to 5% of total labor hours. It was risky, but efficient. The first Airbus aircraft, the A300B1. In 1972, the A300B1 was revealed, rolled out beside Concorde. On October 28th, tail number FWUAB took off from Toulouse. The world's first twin-engine wide-body airliner was airborne, and Airbus officially had a product. The design was sleek, efficient, and surprisingly lightweight. With a 51-meter fuselage and 44.8-meter wingspan, it was just a bit larger than a Boeing 707. Hawker Siddeley's wing design had excellent aerodynamics and high lift systems. Composite materials were used in some parts. It was the first aircraft in commercial aviation to use composite materials. The maximum takeoff weight was only 120 tons lighter than the 707. Engine drama and the CF6 gamble. After losing the Lockheed L1011 contract to Rolls-Royce, GE offered Airbus the CF6 engine. It produced 22.2 tons of thrust and was later built in France and Germany by Snecma and MTU. This collaboration eventually led to CFM International, now one of the biggest engine makers in the world. With auxiliary power from Garrett and fuel capacity for short-haul flights, the A300 was ready for service. Except airlines weren't convinced. Stretching the design, B2 and B4. Air France wanted more seats. Airbus responded with the A300B2, a longer version that could carry up to 345 passengers. It also had more powerful engines and a longer range, 3,240 kilometers. Next came the A300B4, with added center tanks and small Kruger flaps for better performance in hot and high conditions. Its range grew to over 6,000 kilometers. A plane no one wanted. Even with Air France, Lufthansa, and Iberia on board, global interest was cold. Airbus toured the Americas from Sao Paulo to Montreal, but the A300 was seen as underpowered, too short range, and limited by ETOPS rules that restricted twin-engine aircraft from flying too far from emergency airports. Worse, it looked like a political experiment, not a real aircraft company. From 1975 to 1977, there were 0 new orders. Production slowed, and some planes went straight to storage. Cracking the US market. Then came a lifeline. Eastern Airlines, already flying the L1011, was interested in a smaller, more efficient aircraft. Airbus offered them A300s on lease, almost for free, and the gamble paid off. The A300 impressed. In 1978, Eastern ordered 23 aircraft with 9 more options. It was the breakthrough Airbus desperately needed, from underdog to industry standard. Suddenly, airlines noticed. The A300 was reliable, easy to operate, and fuel efficient. It used 30% less fuel than the L1011, a game changer during the fuel crisis. In 1977, it received ETOPS 90 certification, expanding its route potential. Airbus delivered 15 aircraft in 1978, 39 by 1980, and 46 by 1982. The A300 was no longer a joke, it was a success, expansion and evolution. British Aerospace rejoined Airbus in 1979. The A310 followed in 1982, with digital systems, 2-pilot cockpit, and a range of 9,540 kilometers. Then came the A300-600 and A300-600R, with more space, upgraded systems, and up to ETOPS 180. It became a true long-haul contender. Cargo, beluga, and beyond. By the 1990s, retired passenger A300s were being converted into freighters, and they were perfect for it. UPS, FedEx, and others still operate over 100 of them today. Then came the Beluga, an A300-600 ST built to carry Airbus parts. It replaced the Super Guppy and became an icon of European aerospace logistics. Another variant, the A300 0G, performed parabolic flights for space agencies from 1997 to 2014. Accidents and end of production. Like any widely used aircraft, the A300 faced tragedies. It was involved in around 100 incidents over its lifetime, with 24 aircraft lost, but its safety record was within industry norms. Production ended in 2007, with 561 aircraft built. Over 170 are still flying today, mostly in cargo roles. A legacy that built Airbus. From the A300 came the A310, A330, and A340. It also paved the way for the A320, the aircraft that transformed Airbus into a global leader. Back in 1974, Airbus delivered its fourth aircraft. In 2024, they delivered their 8,658th. Today, Airbus controls over 50% of the global commercial aircraft market, and the rest of the world, including the US, is now racing to keep up. The A300 wasn't just Airbus's first aircraft. It was a gamble, one that challenged an entire industry, and it worked. Thanks to it, we now live in a world where air travel is more efficient, more international, and more connected than ever before. Thanks for watching EMAviation, and if you enjoyed this deep dive, consider subscribing for more stories from the skies.